I'm going to quickly just tell you a little bit about the kind of origin story of Equals, and then I'll show you a quick demo of what it's like to actually live and work in Equals before we get into dashboards itself. So my background, so I'm obviously CEO, co-founder here of Equals. We've been working on Equals for about 3 years now. But before that, I was a finance person and an analyst. I spent 10 years building finance and analytics teams. I did so most notably at Intercom, where I spent 8 years building finance and analytics from 20 people to took the company to over 700 folks. And Equals is the tool I wish I'd had for myself in that experience. And it starts from a really simple and obvious insight, which is that the spreadsheet's the best way to do analysis. Every meaningful business decision that I've ever made in my career has happened out of a spreadsheet. There's a reason why we always end up back in a spreadsheet when we're doing analyses. It's the most flexible tool. It's the canvas that lets us kind of move data around, touch and feel it, play with it, build things that are exactly what we need in our business. And so again, the whole kind of ethos and thesis behind Equals is that the spreadsheet's actually correct. And so we look at the alternatives, or we look at the world around us and just get really frustrated. I've spent the last, like I said, 10 years being pitched BI tools, being pitched notebooks, being pitched spreadsheet alternatives, out of the box reporting tools, FP&A vertical tools. Hey, here's a new way to build a spreadsheet. Here's a new formula that you should learn. And all of that was just, all I wanted was a spreadsheet. Give me the spreadsheet. And so if you take the spreadsheet as correct, the kind of the fundamental premise of a spreadsheet being right, the world really has fundamentally changed in the time that we've had Excel and Google Sheets. Excel's been around 40 years. Google Sheets has been around 16 years now. But the ways in which we work as analysts within technology companies is fundamentally different. The places where our data lives, the ways in which we connect to those places, but then also where we do our work, the way that we share our analyses, where our stakeholders live. They work in Slack, they work in email, they work in Google Slides, they work in Coda and Notion and different places. And so the spreadsheet itself is right, it just hasn't kept up. And so we're solving a couple different problems with Equals, but the first problem that we're solving is that traditional spreadsheets, Excel and Google Sheets, aren't connected to live data. Every analysis that you build in Excel and Google Sheets is, the minute you're done building it, it's stale. And we've all spent an inordinate amount of our times. I'm embarrassed to admit how much time of my life I have spent manually updating Excel workbooks, Google Sheets workbooks, updating columns, updating data. But then also, because Excel and Sheets are not connected to live data, it's really hard to have any lineage or understand exactly where your analyses came from, how something was pulled, when it was pulled, who pulled it, in which way data came into a spreadsheet. And all of that leads to just high-risk decisions, the probability of your analyses having a mistake in it being significantly higher. And so let me show you. So our mission here at Equals is to create the spreadsheet for modern data analysis. And modern is really important here. Modern data analysis is going to continue to happen in a spreadsheet. It's not going to happen in BI tools. It's not going to happen in notebooks. It's not going to happen in the plethora of other kind of spreadsheet alternatives. We believe it's going to continue to happen in the spreadsheet. And the first step in solving that is having a spreadsheet that's connected to live data. So I'm going to jump over here quickly, and I'm going to show you a demo of what it actually looks like to connect Equals to a live data source, what it feels like to play with it. Some of you may be familiar already with this. You might have seen the demos that we've posted online. You may have yourself already used Equals, but I'll show you kind of a couple of quick tricks that you may or may not have come across. So hopefully, even if you've already seen Equals, there'll be some new things in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over here to an Equals workbook. I think we can see this. Cool. And so first thing you'll notice is that Equals looks just like a spreadsheet. It is a spreadsheet. And so here I've got all the same formulas that I'd have in Google Sheets and Excel. They work the exact same way as Excel and Google Sheets. I could literally copy and paste a formula from Excel into equals, have it work. So I've got my sum ifs, my index, my match, my VLOOKUP. All of those formulas work the exact same way. And then I've got all the spreadsheet features that I'm used to, from pivot tables to conditional formatting to sorting to filtering to freezing panes, removing grid lines, charting. Everything that you've gotten used to working in a spreadsheet works in equals. It's also fully co-viewable and co-shareable. So you can share this with anybody on your team. They can be in here working. You can give somebody read-only permission, edit-only permission. We'll touch on what dashboard only permission means when we get to the dashboard demo. But this is the kind of core of equals. And then the magic of equals is kind of first magic moment that you might have with equals is when you come to connect the data source. And so here in this case, I'm actually going to connect to a Snowflake database. And with Snowflake, with any of our data connectors, you've got two options. You've got you can connect to the data source, or you can pull data down using our query builder. So if you're not familiar with SQL, you can actually just select from different tables and select the columns. Or you can write SQL queries. You can write as complex of a query as you'd like to. I'm going to show you what it looks like to pull something using our query builder. And here I've got my tables. I can explore. I can say, okay, where do I have my MQLs, for example? And so let's actually just pull down our MQLs table. And let's put the date field first. And then let's create a filter. Let's say this is, and we're just going to look for all of our MQLs created, and we'll say in 2022. So we'll get rid of this limit. We'll go ahead and run this. And so again, equals here is connecting to Snowflake database. And here within a few seconds, I'll have my data returned live in my workbook. Okay, cool. So here you can see I've got my MQL data by channel, by month. This should be through 2022. One of the next steps that you might do when you're pulling data from an analysis is you're having to append some calculation alongside your data set. And what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to have our AI assist help me. So we're going to do something. We're going to ask it to figure out if a channel is a paid channel for me. So I'm going to say, I don't want actually want to write the formula. So I'm going to say if, let's say, we'll pretend that Google and Facebook, then paid, else non-paid. See if it gets that right. Cool. Okay, so here you see it wrote the actual formula for me. It says, if it's Google or Facebook, we'll mark it as paid. If it's not, then we'll mark it as non-paid channel. Cool. And then the other thing it did is any calculation that's done alongside my data set automatically gets extended down for me. So if I go and run this query again, the calculations will automatically match down to match my data set so that I don't have to worry about copying and pasting formulas down. That's really the first step of automating any analyses. Okay, so now we've got this data set out of Snowflake. We could, if we wanted to, put this on a schedule, but we're just doing a quick ad hoc analysis here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this data set, and we have this fun interaction way of interacting with equals, which is through this kind of Command K prompt here. And this lets me access anything I want to within equals. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to insert a pivot table. And so now you'll see it's created a new sheet for me, and here I've got my pivot table. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just quickly, let's just create a pivot. And actually I'm going to do this. I'm going to go is paid rows, and then let's just sum our, so here we've got our MQL. We'll get rid of our grand totals. Cool. So now we'll format this as a number. We'll get rid of our decimals. Okay, cool. So now we've got our paid and non-paid MQLs by month. Let's go ahead. And again, we're going to chart this using our Command K feature. And so now we've got a chart built off of our pivot table that's built off of our Snowflake database. We can update the chart as we want to. We can customize it. It's fully customizable. But the thing I'm going to do here is I'm gonna show you what this looks like when we actually import more data. So you'll see, again, the pivot table itself runs through December. The chart itself runs through December. One of the most frustrating parts of doing analyses in Excel and Sheets is that, and this all builds up to how dashboards ultimately works. But one of the most frustrating parts, one of the most manual parts, is you're not only having to copy and paste and drop in all your data, but then you're dragging all your formulas down. But then once I did that, I'd have to copy and paste all my columns over here and update my chart manually as well. Not with equals. So here I'm going to come and I'm going to say, let's just pretend now it's February 1st, 2023. And so we'll have another month's worth of data. Let's go ahead and run this query. And you'll see we'll get our new results here in a few seconds. So you'll see now I've got new data. You see I've got my formulas all automatically copied down. And then here I've got my January results on my pivot table, and my chart's automatically updated. So I'm done. If I was scheduling this query every month, every week, I'd have all of my updated charts, all of my updated tables. That's just the first kind of level up of automation that you can do in Equals. Obviously, we could do this on multiple different data sources. I can use my SQL editor instead of our query builder. But yeah, that's the kind of first powerful moment that you can do with Equals. Cool. Okay, so now let me jump back over to the presentation. Okay. So again, what we've shown so far is kind of the first problem, the first kind of problem set that we're trying to solve with Equals. Equals is a connected spreadsheet. It allows you to automate the kind of most mundane parts of your workflow as somebody who's having to build out analyses. But then what happens when you want to share that analysis? So we launched Dashboards. Dashboards was, as Matt said, we launched it a month ago. We ended up as product of the day on Product Hunt. Thank you all for your support. You know, it was received really, really well by both prospects and customers. The story I like to, there's maybe two stories I like to tell on kind of why we built Dashboards. The first starts with this, you know, silly meme here, but we've all lived this as folks that have created dashboards. If you've been an analyst in any company, whether it's a data analyst, a business analyst, a finance person, a marketing ops person, a rev ops person, if you've worked with data in the company, you know that the most common button in any BI tool is the download to CSV. And I've seen it, I've lived it. As analysts, we're just stuck in these insanely manual workflows, these like roundabout workflows where every analysis, every dashboard you create starts, at least every one I've created, has started in Excel or Google Sheets. I end up sharing that with my stakeholders. They give me the thumbs up. They're like, cool, Bobby, that looks good. Then I spend the next like week or two going and building that, recreating that exact same dashboard that I created in 2 hours in Excel, going and building it in Tableau or Looker or some other BI tool, only for them to never log into it. And if they do log into it, they just download the data right back into a CSV, put it back into Google Sheets, do some extrapolation on it, and then ask me a question about it. And then I'm back in Google Sheets with them trying to figure out what happened. And so that workflow is just so silly to me. And this is why we built dashboards on top of a spreadsheet. People they start their analysis in a spreadsheet, they end their analysis in a spreadsheet. Dashboards should also exist in a spreadsheet. The other origin story of dashboards and Equals comes from, like I said, I spent 8 years at Intercom building out finance and analytics. And probably the most impactful analysis I ever built at Intercom was this daily pulse. And there was nothing insightful about it in any way, shape, or form. It was a series of like 10 charts, which are all blurred here. The most basic analyses that you could ever do. All it was how many visitors came to our marketing site every day, how many people signed up, how many people started trials, how many people paid, how many people canceled, how much revenue did we bring in that day. And the thing that was magic about it though was that it wasn't a dashboard that people had to log into. It was a dashboard that got pushed to people. It was a dashboard that ended up in everybody at the company's inbox every single day at the end of the day. And what that enabled was just this, the company to get way faster feedback on what was happening across the business. So if we shipped something that broke conversion, we knew about it that same day. If we launched something and it did well, we knew about it exactly that day. If we launched something and it didn't go well, we knew about it. We weren't waiting a week to debrief on things. We knew about things at the end of the day, and it was everybody knew it because it was in their inbox. Creating that daily pulse was a total nightmare. And it was a nightmare because it, one, required me to pull from different data sources and combine it all together. But then it was also a nightmare because I had a Mac Mini that was writing Python scripts to pull all the data together. It was learning how to write cron jobs and spin up servers and host this all. And all of that could have taken me, if I could have done that in a spreadsheet, it would have taken me 2 hours to build. And so we're trying to solve that problem with dashboards in Equals. This brings me kind of to the second point here, which is the second problem, or this kind of second issue that we're trying to solve ultimately with Equals, which is that BI tools aren't built for the type of analyses that most of us want to do. They're built for just reporting on your business, but every single one of us has used a spreadsheet alongside our BI tool. The things that otherwise would take us an hour or two to build in a spreadsheet take us, weeks to build in BI tools. Not to mention how expensive and expensive BI tools are to stand up and then also maintain. So with that, I'm going to show you quickly what it's like to build a dashboard in Equals. So let me share over here to another Equals workbook. This one's one that I've got more built out. If you saw some of the demos that we put out on launch day of dashboards, this workbook here will look familiar. So in this workbook, I've got multiple different data sources. I've got Google Analytics connected. I've got a Stripe instance connected. Here you can see the power of our SQL editor itself, written multi-hundred line SQL query in here. We've got our Snowflake database. We've got our bank account connected via Plaid. And then we've got a QuickBooks report also connected. And so you could think of this workbook here as like a little startup hub. This is everything that a startup might need to run their business. I've got an ARR build, so I can track what our revenue is month by month. Where are the components of those pieces coming from? This is built off of primarily Stripe. I've got a little cost of goods sold analyses. This is built mostly off of QuickBooks. I've got a cash runway analysis built off of our bank account. And then I've got a lead summary, and this is built off of a combination of GA and Snowflake. Again, this shows kind of the power of being able to use multiple different data sources within Equals. This conversion rate here is pulling from GA and from Snowflake. Okay, so on dashboards, a couple of let's go ahead and start building dashboard. So let's call this our startup dashboard. And then really pulling a dashboard together is as simple as selecting from all of the charts and tables that I might want to pull in. So here we might start, if we're thinking about this as like a dashboard that we might want to share with our investors. We might want to start just at the top of the funnel and work our way down the business. So we can start with, let's pull in our lead volume, our visitor volume, and our conversion rate. We can drag things around to move stuff. So we could put our visitor volume here first. Whoops. Let's put our lead volume second. So we'll go through the funnel, visitors to lead to conversion rate. Next up, we might want to do a little table here. This is one of the biggest pain points I've felt in BI tools. Being able to pull, it's easy to build a chart, but it's actually really hard to build a table. Much easier to build something in Excel. Really hard in Tableau or any other BI tool to build a table with conversion rates and month-to-month growth rates. But those are really powerful views of your business. So with Equals, you'll see here, I just selected the table and there it's on my dashboard. And then we can build out the rest of this. So we could say, okay, now we've got our revenue. Let's put in our COGS and our cash burn. And cool. Okay, here we've got like a really simple dashboard. If we don't want to we could write our own little summary of the business. or we can have AI come in here and let's say have it write a little summary for us based off of our top of funnel charts. Cool. Okay. So now there's a few different ways I can share a dashboard with folks. I alluded to this earlier, but you can share a workbook with somebody, give them read only or edit permission. But I can also share dashboard only permission. And this comes from, we've all lived this too, share an Excel workbook or share a Google Sheets file with somebody to then have them go change a formula, add a column. The whole analysis is broken. Hopefully they're not making a decision based off of that. In this case, you can actually kind of just create like a front end to your spreadsheet, not worry about them changing any of the underlying formulas, not worry about them changing any of the underlying data sources, but they've got a dashboard that they can view. So that's the first way you can share a dashboard, is dashboard only permission. But then as I was talking about the kind of daily pulse and the impact that that had at Intercom, what we've built into dashboards is also the ability to push this out to your stakeholders in the places where they work, in the places where they consume their analyses. And so here I can do a variety of different things. I can add, I can push this dashboard into Slack. So I can have this go into a channel, have it sent into a Slack channel every day, every week at a specific time. I can have it sent to, like we did with the Daily Pulse, have it sent via email on a schedule, or I can have it auto create a Google slide deck for me. So in this case, I could send myself a test of this email, and in my inbox, I can send it once, or I can set it to schedule every day at 9 a.m. I want an update on my business, or sorry, 9 a.m., not p.m. I want an update on my business. And so long as you've scheduled the queries to update, I can always go back here. I can see all my connections. I can put this on a schedule. I could say run this every day at 8 a.m. and my dashboard will automatically update and then get pushed to me. So it's the simplest way to build a dashboard. If you know how to spreadsheet, you know how to dashboard is what we like to say. Cool. So I'm going to jump back here to the presentation. That's a quick kind of very quick walkthrough of what you can do with dashboards. Really simply, at a high level, in Equals, you can automate all of your analyses with live data. You can create a dashboard as easily as you can create a Google Doc. And then, like we said, you can push these dashboards out, push these insights out to the places where you and your stakeholders are really talking about the business, making decisions, trying to get the insights. And then you can build all sorts. Equals is insanely flexible. You can build all sorts of different types of analyses, from marketing top of funnel analyses. We connect to Google Analytics. We connect to the different ad platforms. You could recreate the Daily Pulse, something like we did at Intercom. You can build out retention cohorts. This is also something that's quite hard to do in BI tools. We all always end up back in spreadsheets building retention cohorts. Much easier to do so in Equals. Sales pipeline reporting, we connect to Salesforce and HubSpot. Cash burn analyses, we connect to bank accounts. You can do this all in different workbooks and different dashboards, or you can have one dashboard that brings it all together. It's up to you, but it's really, I think we've built one of the most flexible and one of the most flexible data tools on the planet. Okay, with that, I'll give you a quick sneak preview of a few things that we're changing with dashboards coming soon, and then I'm going to talk you through one last major update that we're making to Equals overall. It does have a fun implication for dashboards, so will be fun to walk through this. Okay, first thing on dashboards, as AI is kind of AI is a hot topic. So what we're going to allow you to do with a dashboard is start with AI. You won't even have to do what I just did and really simply select charts and different tables and put in headers and things like that. You'll be able to click this button here, start with AI, and we'll create a dashboard for you, and you can then customize it from there. But we'll kind of infer what that dashboard might look like based on what's in your workbook. And give you a starting point instead of making you start from scratch. Second, we're building out anonymous mode. This is something that comes to all of Equals, but also dashboards. So this makes it much easier for you to be able to share a dashboard, whether it's with an external party. So if you wanted to share a dashboard with an investor and they didn't have an Equals login, it's up to you to decide which workbooks and which dashboards you do give anonymous mode permission to. But you can then share a dashboard with somebody who doesn't have an Equals login. And then the last thing here is you'll be able to, and this is, I think, a really kind of fundamental and powerful new feature set within Equals. You can do this today. So the idea is that you're able to join data sources, together. So you'll be able to write a query that joins your Salesforce data to your Stripe data, or your Segment data to your Intercom data, or your Postgres data to your HubSpot data. Today, you can do that in Equals, but you can only do it through the query builder, which is powerful but limited. And very soon, you'll be able to actually write a SQL statement and say, select star from transactions table on my Stripe, join to opportunities in Salesforce. And have that be in one query, and the results of the query return back data from both of those data sources. What that ultimately allows you to do is, particularly if you're a startup, you don't have to go and buy this whole data stack that people are talking about. You don't have to go buy Fivetran. You don't have to go buy dbt. You don't have to go buy your own Snowflake instance. Connect Stripe, connect Intercom, connect QuickBooks, connect Salesforce, HubSpot directly to Equals, and you can query each one individually using SQL, or you can query across those data sources all within Equals. And I found in my experience, the most interesting insights happen at those kind of the intersection of different data sources. So I'm really, really excited to put this in folks' hands and see what kind of insights you're able to come back with in your business. Okay, that's it. I think we've got about 10 minutes here left for Q&A. So I'm going to invite the team back on stage here and take it from there.
Thank you, Bobby. I've just enabled Q&A. So for those of you joining from home or the office, you should see a new Q&A panel appear in the session interface here. There's been a bunch of questions that have been sent throughout. Thank you to everyone who's engaged throughout the webinar today. If there are questions that have not yet been answered, please do drop them in, upload them. We'll get through as many as we can. It looks like Brad's just dropped one in now. Thank you, Brad. While they are coming in, because we do have 12 minutes left, Bobby, something that was asked in the chat was if we had natural language processing capabilities with AI to do things like write queries. So I was wondering if you're up for it, maybe just quickly show a couple of the things you can do with AI Assist in Equals, and note for the audience while Bobby is bringing up his screen, we do have a couple of very significant updates coming to AI Assist, one before the end of the year and one early next year. It's an area that we're heavily investing in, I think, as many people are right now.
Yeah. So maybe I'll do a couple of things. Let me start here. The first thing I can do with Equals, let's say I wanted to come and I have this SQL statement here. This is a quick query that we've written off of Google Analytics. First thing I can do is I can actually just ask it. I could say, like, do something really simple, like explain this query to me. And so you'll see here this little kind of note module pops up here, and it walks me through the query itself. So it says, okay, here's the here kind of like what each of the columns represent. And gives me, so if I'm working with a query, if I'm jumping into somebody's workbook and it's the first time I'm seeing a query, oftentimes that can be a little bit intimidating. This is a good kind of jumping off point to be able to wrap your head around what that person wrote. So that's maybe part one. I can do things like, let's say I wanted to come back here and say, actually, I don't want to write a query from scratch. I'm going to have it just write a query for me. So let's say, write me a query that pulls in MQLs by channel and day. So equals knows your schema. And so it's going to look through your schema and say, okay, do I have something that looks like MQLs? And can I pull that in? So it's got here my MQL channel, my created date. We could ask it to come in here and say, limit this query to data as of maybe data only in 2022. Let's see if it gets that right. And I think it looks like there's still something I need to modify here on the count star. I don't think that's going to return to me exactly what I'm looking for, but you'll see here now it's given me the created at dates in 2022. And so not perfect at times, but it does give me a starting point. So now all of a sudden, instead of me having to write this query totally from scratch, I can now just go in and modify it as I need to. So those are maybe a couple of the kind of like really quick, easy starting points that AI Assist allows you to use in our SQL editor.
Awesome. Thanks, Bobby. Maybe Jyan, while we get through some of these questions, if you just want to drop a link to the help article from our help center, which tells you everything you can do with AI Assist just in chat, that would be great. And if you're not yet using Equals, if you head to our website, equals.com/AI, you'll be able to learn more about AI Assist. And if you're already using Equals, just hit Command or Control J if you're on Mac or Windows, respectively. So a couple of questions. We'll start with Brad, since that came in first. Can Equals support forecasting and writing forecast values back to a database, for example, Snowflake, for doing future budget versus actual?
Great question. Definitely support forecasting. So, you know, in spreadsheets, the most powerful tool to forecast in, plain and simple. And so Equals, you can build out, you know, a full-fledged operating model. You've got all the formulas that you'd have in Excel and Sheets to be able to do that. And so definitely support forecasting. We don't support right now writing back into a Snowflake database. One thing folks are capable of doing is you can actually connect back to Equals workbooks themselves. So you can use Equals workbooks as a data source itself. So if you did have like a plan model, for example, and you'd locked your plan, or you said you had like, you know, this is our January forecast, this is our February forecast workbook, you can always reference that as a workbook within another Equals workbook. And it gets treated as a data source. So you can kind of work with it that way, but we don't yet support pushing back into a Snowflake database.
Great. Thanks, Bobby. Brad, let us know in chat if we didn't answer your question fully. We can go further if needed. Next question is from Philip. And by the way, we've got time left. So if you do have more questions, please drop them in and we will stick around and answer them. So drop them in. So Philip from Atlassian has a question. What does offline mode look like in Equals when internet is not available or stable? For example, when flying on a plane, I think you meant.
Ben, do you want to take that?
Sure. We don't have an offline mode per se, but we will handle unstable internet pretty well. So that'll be okay. But like if you lost your internet entirely, we don't have that just yet. But one day soon.
Okay, I think that gets us through all the questions that have been submitted. Maybe we'll just give another. Oh, we got Laurie with another question. Is there a way to add custom colors to tables? Bobby, do you want to show us that maybe?
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, it all works just like Excel and Sheets. Actually, let me show you here. So let's share this tab. So if we came back here, let's say we're modifying this table here. I can come in here and I can select any of these preset colors. So I can modify it in that way. Charts, we can definitely, you can select the actual color that you want to use. Ben, do we allow hex code on the tables or fill in a cell?
We do not.
Not yet.
You can in a chart though.
Yeah.
Go in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. And it's also possible, sorry if I missed it, I was just monitoring chat. You can obviously change fill color, text color, everything using Command K for accessing all your shortcuts from the command palette. All right, next question is from Adrienne. Apologies if I mispronounce your name. Does it help identify outliers and give the option of doing views with and without outliers? So I imagine conditional formatting is the question.
Conditional formatting would be a way to be able to do that, but no, we don't have out of the box, hey, this is like outlier detection or alerting around that, or just selecting something. And you do so the way you do in kind of Excel and Sheets. You'd pick an outlier and you'd either remove it yourself. Maybe the only thing I would, the one potential work around here is if you are, one thing we do enable is you can, if you pull a data set and let's say for some reason I wanted to say Google's, I know in this data set, Google is not right. What I can do is I can actually create a note off of a data set. And this is kind of like a, you know, if you wanted to, if you had an outlier, you could say, okay, let me say my MQL, I'm going to say this is, so anytime it.
Bobby, are you sharing a screen?
Oh, sorry. I'm not sharing the right screen.
There we go.
So basically what I can do here is I can create a note on a field. And so it's not exactly outlier detection, but it does let me kind of mark something as an outlier. So if I said in this query again, I know Google's not right, I just want to make it 0 all the time. In this case, I created a note that is based off of my MQL channel. And anytime I run this query, this note is going to show up anytime Google is there. And so it's a one form of allowing us to document when there's something that you want to differentiate in your data. That's the way I put it.
Great. I'm learning today. Thanks, Bobby. All right. Question for Magnus. How does permissioning work with respect to an entire finance org using equals? Can managers / team leads control their team's access, or is it a free for all with respect to who can access which data sets, sheets, dashboards? Great question, Magnus.
Yeah, great question. So permissioning works on a few different levels. You can permission things at a workbook level. Like I showed you, you can give teams, you can give certain teams in your company access to a workbook. You can give individuals access to a workbook. You can do read-only, edit-only permission, dashboard-only permission. That same model also applies to data sources. So you can give anybody in your company access to either work with a data source, or by default, they do not have access to a data source. So if they get shared a workbook that's connected to, say, your Snowflake database, they can't run the query. And so you have the granularity to be able to share data sources at the individual level, as well as workbooks and dashboards at the individual level. Ben, anything you'd add to that?
No, perfect.
Yeah, Chris, our head of finance, shares dashboards with me all the time, view only, for obvious reasons. Okay. Kyle has got a question, I believe. Let me just read it through. If we want to show pipeline movement, notice that you automatically save the query history. Is there an easy way to compare week-to-week queries, or just show weekly pipeline changes in general? For example, stage changes, close date changes, changes in ACV, etc.
Yeah. Short answer. So I think what you're alluding to, so here I can see every time a query was run. And so I can say, okay, I want to be able to see, I can actually restore this version of the query. I can come back here, I can restore this. We don't have a feature right now that says, tell me what's the difference between these two query runs. Yeah, we don't have that yet.
Okay, and with 1 minute left, we have a question from Amit. Apologies if I mispronounced your name there. Is there an activity log with multiple users?
Ben, you want to take that?
Sure. There is not. I think kind of to the previous point, I think you can get pretty granular with permissions, and make sure things aren't shared with who they shouldn't be. But we don't have any sort of audit log yet.
Great, thanks, Ben. And then Shelley's dropped in one more question. Can we change the fill color for heading in the SQL result sheet?
Oh, good question. Here, like, I don't know. We can try. I don't think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't like it.
Could be a great enterprise feature. Well, I'm just kidding. Okay. We've got some great questions in here. I think we were able to get through all of them. We also got some nice feature requests popping through. Thank you, Shelley and Laurie, with the request for hex color options for tables. We're at the top of the time we had for today. Really appreciate everyone sticking around. I think 90% of people stayed through the end, which is wonderful. Thanks for your engagement. Thanks for your questions, and thanks for your support of Equals. We'll get the recording from today out to you, as well as a summary of all the questions and the answers. And maybe we'll do this again sometime soon, maybe with AI. All right. Bye for now, everyone.
Thanks
Have
all.
a wonderful rest of
Thank
your
you.
day.